Hi there. Okay, so if this is your first episode, don't make it your first episode. The reason I say that is because we're going to do some wrap-up on this thing called the Body, Mind, Spirit model. And you need to be introduced to it a little bit before we go there. But so if you have been with us, today's episode is going to be the last in the BMS 101, and we're going to wrap up a lot of little loose ends, and we're going to move kind of quickly, and so we'll hit it again hard next week. Today we're going to discuss a lot of the emotions that we haven't discussed, just to show you that the Body, Mind, Spirit model really does explain everything to do with being human. So with that, go. Welcome to the I Am Podcast, where we answer all the questions about spirituality and inner peace that you ever wanted to ask, and where we learn the secrets of humanity and divinity through a better understanding of both. I'm your host, Sean Webb. Okay, so this episode may mean a little less to you if you haven't already seen episodes 4 through 13, but we're going to do a little cleanup of the things that we didn't talk about in the Body, Mind, Spirit model so that we can move forward in making some awesome changes to our lives so as to make life better. If you will recall, in episode 3, we introduced the first ever comprehensive Body, Mind, Spirit model of existence that explains the scientific process of the creation of pain and suffering and basically lays out how a human life works, more or less. And in episodes 4 through 8, we started explaining the intricacies of the emotional influence system, these 4 groupings here, and how, if you're part of the human species, your emotions are formed in your mind, dependent on what big block pieces are being moved around in there to 100% accuracy. We can explain everything with this. Then in episodes 9 through 13, we gave the specific definitions of some of the negative emotions and showed how they can be clearly defined and shown how to work within everyone, regardless of what we perceive as our individuality. Every human generates emotions the exact same way. And now, after discussing the big negative emotions, after discussing false and true love in our episode 21, after discussing the impermanence and illusory characteristics of happiness versus joy in episode 23, and after discussing mindful and experiential intelligence in episode 24, we are here at episode 25 to put the final brushstrokes on some of the basics that we skipped, just to give you the last details of the model, so in case I get hit by a bus next week, you can still be about 100 years ahead of modern psychology in your ability to understand and utilize the model to make your life better. Okay, so we've covered the specifics of anger, sadness, fear, worry, regret, happiness, love, and we know that every one of these emotions is dependent on changes in the states of these 4 components in the mind. For instance, anger is the emotion created by the mind when something on the ego list is challenged from an external source. And regardless of gender, ethnicity, culture, cognitive abilities, and geographic location on the planet, when something on the list of your ego is challenged by a credible external source, anger occurs in all humans, from toddlers in octogenarians, from Pershing, Iowa to Beijing, China, and same for the definitions of sadness, fear, regret, etc. And you can see those in the back episodes 4 through 8 for the emotional influence system, and 9 through 13 or 14 for some of the individual emotions. Okay, so without covering all that stuff again, what about some of the other emotions that psychology has identified to date, like excitement, embarrassment, disgust, trust, surprise, etc.? If you're ready, we'll rip through those pretty quickly and then even add a new emotion that psychology has not yet recognized at the end of the episode. Okay, so embarrassment. What is embarrassment in the BMS model? Well, embarrassment is simply the reaction within the mind when a person thinks back on a past event as being a devaluation of the ego, and it's their preference that that event would not have occurred. For instance, if your pants fall down, embarrassment is the result you have of having preferred that your pants would have not fallen down because of a devaluation that you perceive has happened. Even if you're standing there in the split second after it happened and you're feeling that embarrassment when your pants are around your ankles, embarrassment is the result of you regretting the event because you perceive the event to devalue your egoic existence, and that's what embarrassment is. Guilt. Guilt is actually very related to embarrassment, but in this case, it's the emotion of a past event that you would have preferred not have happened that you actually caused. You hauled off and slapped your child for mouthing off to you when you could have handled it better. You feel guilty because the event in the past is a perceived evaluation that you caused. Guilt. Surprise! Surprise is the emotion that results from you simply not expecting a reality where a reality pops in on you. It's a raw equation of emotion reaction. We perceive good surprises and not so good surprises, but the simple imbalance in the equation of emotion without any judgment connected to it is what causes the emotion of surprise. Stress. This one is going to ultimately help the medical community immensely. Stress is simply an unresolved equation of emotion. If you're angry about your position in life or your position in your company or your financial status or other pressures that science has identified as causing stress that you really can't change, what that is in reality is a long-term imbalance in the equation of emotion. It's a difference in the RP, the reality as perceived, versus your EP, your expectation or preference on something that you can't easily change. So your financial situation doesn't change, right? And it doesn't meet your expectation or preference. And because of the long-term imbalance in the equation of emotion, it causes you stress. Now, this is important to understand because the #1 contributor to health problems in the US is stress. It is what helps cause obesity, high blood pressure, heart problems, diabetes, etc., etc. So once we as humans learn how to manage the equation of emotion within us, we will reduce stress dramatically and thus increase our health dramatically. Relief? No, I mean the emotion of relief. Well, just the opposite of stress. Relief is the emotion that comes about when an imbalance of the equation of emotion falls into balance again. I'm afraid my son is going to fall off the bed now that he's too near the edge of the bed, right? Fear is the result of a potential internal evaluation that will result from my son getting hurt because my son is part of my ego. Fear is also the result of a potential devaluation that would occur because if I let him fall, I'd be a bad parent, which is another potential internal devaluation. Stress is the reaction of the unresolved equation of emotion that exists while he's standing up on the very edge of the bed, right? It's the unresolved equation of emotion is that stress. And the relief is what occurs when he dives toward the center of the bed and out of imminent danger. And every other situation you could ever think of, relief is the resolution of an imbalanced equation of emotion. And again, we'll cover all this stuff in future episodes as examples in real life scenarios as we move forward. Pride. We are going to have a whole future episode on pride at some point in the future, and a lot of people aren't going to like it because we're going to discuss pride in our children, pride in our country, and pride in our heritages. But for now, let's just talk about the definition. Pride is the emotion that you feel when you loop back onto your ego and its valuation is meeting your expectation or preference. You're happy with the valuation that you have on your ego. That is pride. Your child comes home with a good report card or scores that goal in that soccer match, right? You feel pride because there's a valuation of your ego connected with that occurrence, and your preference is that valuation increase occur, right? You're looking at your egoic self when you feel pride, and that's why it's one of the 7 deadly sins. Get ready for some good philosophical arguments and discussions there. Trust. Trust is simply the state of mind that occurs in the absence of any fear. If you feel that a bridge you're about to step out onto isn't going to collapse and potentially damage your body, which is part of your ego, no fear exists there. So you trust that the bridge is going to hold. When you trust that your partner isn't going to cheat on you, it's because you have no fear that they're going to devalue your ego by stepping out with someone else. This trust can exist in the absence of that fear. And so related emotions are confidence and courage, and are basically an absence of fear. And there are others But because of time's sake and because this is getting a little monotonous, I think we'll stop here. For instance, anticipation is the state of mind that you're in while waiting for evaluation change to occur, either positive or negative. Psychology identifies optimism as an emotion, but it isn't. It's the state of mind. And of course, there's disgust, contempt, amusement, etc., all explainable with 100% accuracy within the model, and we will hit those things probably in future episodes. But before we run out of time, there is something that we need to identify as an emotion that psychology has not yet approved as one. And that emotion is yearning. Yearning is the emotion that comes about as the result of wanting to balance an imbalanced equation of emotion. Someone cuts you off in traffic, which is an attack on your importance and maybe even caused you some brief fear, which then in turn also caused some additional anger, whatever. The need to rebalance your equation of emotion in that instance and increase your egoic valuation or decrease the valuation of the other driver in the face of his theoretical assault is what causes you to call him or her an idiot and or flip them off and or honk the horn or whatever. That wanting to rebalance the equation is the emotion of yearning. It's an emotion that results in an imbalance in the equation of motion, and it's the will or the drive to rebalance that equation of emotion. When your significant other cheats on you and you want to take them for everything that they're worth in divorce court, that is the emotion of yearning, to rebalance the equation of emotion, to make everything right, to want that sense of justice. And you feel it until you rebalance that equation of emotion. And sometimes, people can go their whole lives without satisfying that emotion. Like never resolving sexual abuse issues when they were kids, which causes stress because of the permanently imbalanced equation of emotion there, and the constant yearning emotion that they don't even realize was there because, they've lived so long with it. And remember, the imbalance in the equation of emotion long term is what causes stress. So, one little thing unresolved in your past that you haven't let go of can cause stress for the rest of your life. Okay, so I guess we'll wrap it up here. I think you get the point that this model explains everything about what it means to be human, including all the convoluted emotions and the mind-body connection and all the stuff that stands in our way of being more spiritual, because once we calm all this stuff in the mind and body, we exist in spirit most of the time, and that's when life becomes untouchable, unspeakable, unsurpassable. And of course, as always, you can get the diagrams for free at iamspirituality.com. Now, if you think we're done just because the BMS 101 is done, no way, Jose. We're just getting started, because from here on out, we're going to tackle real life issues with this model and explain how you can have the power to fix stuff consciously in your life by knowing exactly what's malfunctioning within you, exactly what's going on, so that you can grab a wrench and fix it yourself, or with a little help from me if you'd like. Next week, I'm going to share some of my personal challenges so we can start a conversation. I kept me out of the BMS 101 series because it is going to change how psychology works from here on out, and there's nothing in that related to me. So because that model was given to me and was actually in operation well before written history, I wanted to put that out there without putting any of my opinions or personal experience into it. But next week is different. And again, no homework this week. I know I'm severely easy on you. If you'd like to catch up on some audiobooks, watch some past episodes as refreshers, and then go to audibletrial.com/iamspirituality, where you can get a free audiobook for just signing up for a 14-day free trial. That's at audibletrial.com/iamspirituality. A lot of good books there. twitter.com/iamspirituality. Facebook, facebook.com/iamspirituality. Random prizes are handed out semi-regularly from our Facebook page. Finally, send me some emails with some of your life's challenges. Sean@iampodcast.com. You want to figure out some of your regular life stuff and how it figures into spirituality? Send me an email. You don't have to share your name, but sharing your challenge could help others with the same issues. And I swear to God, I'm going to blow your mind with the answers to your emails and voicemails the best I can. And then we can discuss them as a group. Know that I love you, regardless of whether you love me. See you next week. Peace.